Yep. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Suzuka, Japan for round 18 of the BRL Tier 3 Formula 1 Series. I am your host once again. I am back, Ferrari 94, BRL Williams, Owen Williams, whatever you want to call me. Joined in the booth this week by my friend ABR Burraps 19, driver of one of the Williams cars in Tier 1. Burraps, how are you doing this evening, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited for a little bit of Tier 3 action tonight. It's my first time getting to cover these guys, so let's see what they have in store for us around the famed Suzuka.
All right, well, going into tonight, the Haas guys have been really taking it to everybody all season long. They can wrap up the Constructors' Championship with a grand total of 4 rounds to go after this. If all comes right tonight, they got a 211-point advantage going into the race. They only need 176 at the end, and it looks like ARS Gudidu 7 in the Racing Point is going to be the first car out on the track. We'll follow him along with great interest.
It looks like, to start it off here, only 2 guys in the pits have provisionally put medium tires on, which I think you could potentially do the medium to soft reverse strategy here. If you can get yourself a good grip position, it will definitely be beneficial. Let's see if they choose to stick with that for the future.
It really will be, because especially if it's cloudy, the soft tire really does not seem to fall off a ton around here, which is, it's nice to see, actually. It creates some very strategically interesting things. I actually performed quite the hellacious undercut and passed 3 cars over the space of 2 laps doing an undercut around here, which is quite difficult to do. It's actually a little bit difficult to find a hole around here, unless you really get a run on a guy down the back straightaway into 130R or down the front straightaway under DRS. There's really not a whole lot of passing opportunities around here, unless you're a bit adventurous. The track is quite narrow and quite high speed and high paced.
Yeah, I think there's a couple other areas you could go for it. The hairpins, one of them, especially if you have the tire advantage under braking. Besides that, you could try to pull a move into the final corner, but not particularly beneficial unless you've got DRS on the car up ahead. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Mistakes around here are going to be extra costly with pretty much everything off track. Being grass, you won't have much room for error.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons I love this place. It's old school, it's dangerous, it bites when you don't get everything right, and that is one reason I usually excel here as a driver. This was the place where I almost won in Season 1, the place where I almost won again. Actually, for the first time in Tier 1 on Saturday night, came oh so close, 0.6 of a second, and a 3-second time penalty that, probably wasn't deserved, because, let's face it, if you go off track here, it's usually not by much, and usually not by anything, gaining anything, really.
Yeah, not really.
So I don't know why they didn't bother. I don't even know why the game bothers. Like right there where Gudu almost ran wide through Degna, and right there where he did run wide. Maybe on the second one you can gain a little bit on the exit going a little bit wide, but on the first one, really not so much. It's just more dangerous than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely, I'd say, the main area to invalidate, and then obviously through Spoon as well. Definitely two tricky areas where you can gain or lose a lot of time, but yeah, as you said, I think the track limit's maybe a little bit harsh. Not going to gain too much from that.
No, you're really not. Especially, I mean, look at that. There's not even hardly a cars with AstroTurf on the outside of that curving at the exit of Spoon onto the back straightaway, so you're really not going to gain anything. The car honestly understeers out there half the time anyway. But 130R, it's a corner where you can make a pass, but you really have to be committed. You have to pretty much say, I'm coming through here whether you like it or not. It's one of my favorite overtaking opportunities, as we see Gudu set the fastest time so far in the Racing Point at a 1:28.2. So these guys are roughly around 3 seconds, 2.5, 3 seconds off right now the pole time from Tier 1, to give an idea of the pace differential. Ooh. As Killer F1 on the medium jumps up, does a 27.3. So maybe that first lap was a little bit cautious from the Racing Point driver. We're going to hop on board with somebody else who's on a lap right now.
Silk Weaver's
coming. That's going to be Silk Weaver.
Yeah.
He is. Froggy Oregano.
Ooh, big lockup.
Stenner starting a lap. Yep, big lockup from the McLaren. He's coming out nice and clean out of the Casio Triangle there towards the front straightaway. Let's see what he can do on the soft. Is he going to beat? No, he's not. He does a 1:28 dead, but it was invalidated apparently because it's not on the... Nope, never mind. 1:27.999. So literally as close as you can be to being in the 27s, but not. So a little bit of time to find there for the McLaren driver. Next driver to come up on the... It's going to be one of the Haas's. That's Joe, and he is invalidated. So he will probably hit the pit lane and re-rack to go again in the Haas. These two Haas guys are really quick, but they do have a tendency of invalidating in the qualifying session. Let's see here.
Zampa's gone purple in Sector 2.
Sector 2, he has indeed. This is something I noticed about my car particularly, is that through Sector 2, if you can really be quick through Sector 2, it bodes very well for you in the race. Sector 1 is almost entirely exclusively about rhythm. Jumps to P2, not quite able to get Killer F1 off of that pole time, but Rawlings finally does, but only by about a tenth. So that just shows that Killer F1, maybe he's kind of like me. Maybe he just really, really, really excels around this circuit for no apparent reason.
Leclerc goes P4 there, 27.5, not far off. Rawlings up at the top now.
No, not at all. Those guys are... This place, as long as it is, it's actually one of the longer circuits on the calendar at how long is this thing? It's 5.8 kilometers? Yeah, it's 5.8 kilometers around and 3.6 miles. So it is quite a long circuit. It's not quite the length of Spa, but it's right there with Spa, Monza, Silverstone. As far as distance, but lap time, I mean, you're doing a 1:25. That's as quick as Silverstone for not really that much shorter of a track.
Ooh, heat wave. Not the best lap there. P8 for now. I think he's going to be wanting to improve about 1.1 off pole at the moment.
Indeed. It looks like Stenner actually spun in the... he did spin in the Dunlop curve, and I think he broke some wing off. He did, so that'll not be helping his tires if that is the set he ends up having to start on. Looking at CRS face test coming out of the hairpin up towards Spoon now. This is a place where you can gain a lot of time, especially off the exit of that hairpin. I was taking it in second gear and just squeezing the throttle on. Other people were running wider in third gear and just really hammering the throttle, but I didn't feel like that was what was gaining me the most time personally. Anyway, coming down the back straightaway, he may get a little bit of a tow off of, I think that's Groggy up ahead of him. he may get a little bit of a toe off Groggy, or Groggy needs to get out of the way. One of the two. That is one thing that that is one thing that can happen, is that if a car is going extremely slowly in the Casio triangle, this happened with myself and Boss Cookie. Really didn't affect me too badly, but it was more annoying than anything, because he was finishing a lap as he jumps up to the top of the board just 1/100th of a second in front of Rawlings. So good lap by Face Taste there to go to the top of the board. But it can really affect your lap, because you're just, if somebody's going so slowly into the final braking zone like that, and you're coming up on them at almost 200 miles an hour, because you go through 130R flat out at about 195. It's not exactly a corner that is to be taken lightly at any respect. But then you just immediately slam on the brakes and bring it down to about maybe 50 for the final chicane. That's a big braking zone. And if somebody's right there and you don't know what they're going to do, and there's not a whole lot of room for them to do something at all to begin with, it can be very unsettling to a driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Groggy's had a moment in the beginning of Sector 2. He spun round right underneath the bridge here, trying to get it back together.
He has indeed.
Gonna need
seems to have got.
Yeah, he's only got 9:30 on the clock here to get a lap in. He's going to need to make the next 2 count. I think he's probably got time for 2 more after he dives into the pits here. Wait and see.
It's possible, but it's going to be a little bit close. I think
it's definitely
one, but Joe behind him on the track is a flying lap here. Heatwave just sent me a message, probably for the weather. Check messages.
Saying he keeps getting on the lobby. I'm not sure who's hosting tonight. Potentially a Hey.
We're gonna have a wet race.
Oh, let's go. So maybe that has something to do with the lap times right now. I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, if it's
maybe a little bit.
It's going to be a full wet race. I'd rather stick with a wet setup for qualifying. I know that's going to compromise you big time, but pole position is great.
And Joe blows the doors off it.
26.3. That's a heck of a lap time right there from Joe.
That is a heck of a lap. That is getting into some rarefied air. There were some Tier 1 drivers who were struggling to match that.
Yeah, I think around a track like Suzuka for sure, and not to knock on any of the assists in the game, but I think things like ABS and the line will definitely help you around a track like Suzuka, kind of guide you through it. So
they certainly will.
Not surprised that Joe's up there. I think he's a pretty good driver to begin with, so seeing that lap time from him particularly surprising.
But remember, he's extremely quick and he's extremely talented. But this is still his first season of league racing, period. When he came into this season, he had no prior experience whatsoever. So to see what he is doing is just borderline downright impressive. He's still got a lot to learn. He still makes a lot of mistakes, but he's got the pace, and that is honestly one of the keys. If you have the pace and you can learn the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. The racing point, by the way, has improved big time. He's up to the P2 now, 26.9 on the board for him. Also a solid lap. That might make me think that his first run, maybe he was sandbagging a little bit just to see if guys were going to go onto the mediums and then potentially go back out, but obviously that's not going to be the case for the session, and he's up to now P3 as Killer moves into P2, not far off Joe.
Indeed, looking at SSR Stenner, who has just started his second flying lap in the Renault. He's coming through Sector 1, gets through turn, I believe that is 5 into 6, and now into the Dunlop curve. Got on that curb on the inside, very easy to get the car sideways off that curb. You really don't want to touch any of the curves through Dunlop, inside or out, because it'll unsettle the car quite a bit. But it's such a narrow line.
Rawlings may be moving up to the front row. If not, he's definitely going to be on the second row of the grid here. Up the line for the Haas, and it's going to be P3. Yep, 26.7, just ahead of Rawlings and a little bit off of the leaders here.
Killer has switched to the soft tire here. So he's decided that, yep, I'm going to just go for broke. Start on the soft.
Yeah, I think the pace match, especially between the softs and the mediums in qualifying here, it's just not really viable to go for the mediums unless you do have a big advantage in terms of qualifying pace, especially with this close as well.
Exactly, and that's the thing that we've noticed across the season is that the tier placement system with as many people as we have now, it's made the grids so tight that you really don't see guys on the mediums starting up towards the front anymore. It's very rare that you do, unless everybody goes to that strategy. Like for instance, we did in Hungary. I don't know if you were there for that race, but I think Hoop was the only person that qualified on the soft, and he qualified on pole, obviously, but everybody else behind him qualified on the mediums. and he ended up losing that race.
Yeah, especially when you can get the grid, you can kind of force them into all making a same decision. You know, if everyone's going to go out on the mediums and one person's on the softs, it does not bode well for that guy. Same thing, I guess, would be the other way around. If someone qualified in the top 10 here on the mediums, they wouldn't be thrilled at the moment as everybody has put in a soft lap time.
Exactly. Only person that has not gone out on the softs right now is Whiffy. He is currently, or at least not set a time, a valid time on the softs. He is currently the only guy with a time on the medium sitting there in P12. Could easily improve. He's got it set up to go out on the, actually he's just come out of the pits on the soft. So this will be his final run, and he is going to go for the soft tire. So that is just pretty much deciding it. Everybody's going for position and not for strategy. I'm going to let you take over for just a second here while I run into the bathroom.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's probably about a second to a second and a half of advantage for the soft tires compared to the mediums. So let's see if Whiffy decides to go back out. Zampa's into the pit lane now. A couple guys out on laps taking a look around here. Looks like we got CSR Facestops in P6 right now. He's actually just invalidated out of Spoon there. Checking in, let's see, LDR. Redeemer is about to kick off his... Oh, he's into the pit lane. Just going to get one more run at it here. Anybody else? Joe's on a run. Joe is coming through the S's now in Sector 1. Let's see if Joe can improve. Haas driver currently holds pole down by just about a half of a tenth there. And really nicely up through the beginning of Sector 1. Let's see what his split time is. He's down on the Delta, actually, and he's run wide. Big lockup and into the gravel for Joe. Probably won't kill the tires too much, but he's going to need to back off, set a fresh lap time here. Got Silk Weaver, he's out on the lap now in Sector 1 himself, the McLaren driver. Let's see, he's 2/10 up, so he's looking right above Redeemer at the moment. Let's see if he makes up more time throughout the lap here.
I'm not sure if they have the lobby set to private or if it's on friends only or what, but there's a bunch of people keep randomly joining in and leaving.
Well, hopefully they get things squared away before the start of the race here. Silk Weaver coming up to the Sector 2 split line now. Been pretty no drama lap so far. That's usually a good sign, but it's about 2.5
quarter of a second up.
Yeah, he's going to need a good Sector 3 here if he wants to hop Leclerc. I don't think he's going to quite reach center's range, but we'll wait and see.
Nice clean exit. Keeps it nice and tight to the line, and he is going to pick up about 3.5 tenths, so he does get in front of Redeemer, not quite getting up to TES Leclerc. We're going to look down here at Whiffy Winner as he comes off of Spoon onto the back straightaway. He's also about 2 tenths up there, so you really expect him to pick up a lot more than that. Not the best of laps, I don't think, but he is only coming through Sector 2 here. So he's now, oh wow, he's 3/4 of a second up now. Yeah, he's definitely going to pick up some spots. Going into the final braking zone, into the Casio Triangle, onto the front straightaway. What is the Alpha Tauri capable of doing? Keeps it nice and tight to the line as well. It's a 1:27.8. That's going to put him in P10 and knock Redeemer down one more. Redeemer is on an outlap, though. We're going to look up here at the guys up towards the top. You've got Killer F1.
Killer's
had a bit of a
no
moment through
plate.
Spoon.
He's got
Yep,
no
he's got,
plate. Yeah, he's done.
he's got half of the wing gone, so his qualifying's over. Rawlings coming through has set. No, he's invalidated, so he's done.
He just, and that's what you were talking about. He's just gone over the limit there, and that was so marginal. I didn't think it would give it to him. Usually it's almost a little bit forgiving in a sense, but yeah, no, Rawlings, I think that's going to be his qualifying over, unless he has enough fuel to go around for another shot here.
Unlikely, and it's not really something you would really want to do on these tires anyway. So looking here at Joe, he's got some traffic in front of him. Looks like he's already backed off the. He's on an outlap, so that would be why I thought he was already on the flying lap. But he's got two cars in front of him, and one of the Renaults and one of the and the Alpha Tauri of Whiffy Winner, who just pulls off to the side there, lets him go. That's one thing that really you have to be just paying attention to. If you are not on a lap, you just have to on one of these long straightaways, which even up towards Spoon, this is technically a straightaway. Just get off to one side, off the racing line, off the short line basically, and just get out of the way.
Yeah, this is going to be awfully tight for Joe, by the way. I know he's got 30 on the clock at the moment, but it's going to be tight coming off the line. He's got a Renault ahead. I think that's Stenner on an outlap too, so he's got to wait for him to kick things off.
Yeah, he's a little bit close to Stenner for my liking. He's got about 8 seconds in hand that he can lay off and still make it to the line.
Yeah, this is going to be Derek. He's going to get there.
Yeah, he'll get there in plenty of time. He will be the last man running, even with about 4 seconds to spare, so he's fine.
I'm going to keep an eye on Joe for you and let you handle everyone else finishing up their final laps.
Alrighty, so we are going to be looking down here at who is the first car. That is one of the racing points. That is Leclerc. He is 2/10 up on his best time right now. His teammate retires from the session. I think he crashed out at the Dunlop curve, actually. So we're going to look at Stenner here, and yep, Guido did, in fact, crash at the exit of Dunlop. Well off the racing surface, though, so not a problem.
Joe's
what is Leclerc going to do?
Sector 1.
Leclerc's 3.5 up through Sector 2. What can he do in the final sector? Pretty clean into the braking zone, over the curbs, onto the front straightaway, no wheel spin. Out of ERS, though, so he's running a bit more downforce. He's going to jump Stenner for the moment. Next car on the road is going to be Heatwave. He is 7/10 up on his time. He's already out of ERS, though, so running a lot of downforce.
Joe's almost lost it coming out of Spoon. Let's see what he gets through Sector 2. I think it's going to be pretty close to his original. Yeah, just a 10th up right now. He was further up. He made quite a big mistake coming off of Spoon there, but...
Zampa abandons his lap there. Next car should be Stenner, and it is. He's 4/10 up.
Oh, and
he is going to jump to P4. Joe crash out.
Joe's just going straight on. I'm not sure what that was. I'm not sure if he did that intentionally because he just, he already had pole, but yeah, that was interesting.
Well, there you have it. Joe F1 on pole with a 126.387 in the Haas. Killer F1 only 0.05 of a second behind in the Williams. So going to be very close between those two. Came down to a three-way fight in Tier 1 between Hoopalicious, Chandler Seta, and myself for the win. All of us, even after time penalties, within 2.5 seconds of each other. Probably within about a second and a half on the racetrack at the end of the race. But still, very, very close fight. Looks like we're in for another one of those. And here we're going to have this wet race. This is going to throw a monkey wrench in everything. The guy sitting 10th could have the fastest car.
100%.
Car in the wet right now, because around here your setup is going to make a huge difference, because your car could be incredibly quick in the straight line, but somebody's just going to walk away from you through the first half of the track if they have more downforce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to mention the spray.
Yeah, definitely. With 13 drivers on track, it'll make it a little bit easier to make up positions. It won't be as crowded, especially on the opening couple of laps, and then obviously when you pit for your second stint. But yeah, unless you're running a wet setup, or at least some combination of wet setup as we get into the session here, it looks like it's probably Inter's condition. I wouldn't say it's completely downpouring.
It looks pretty heavy to me.
It's pretty close. I'd say it's marginal. We're going to find out momentarily here, what everyone decides to go for. But yeah, it should be an interesting start to the race, especially with 13 on the grid. Look for some guys to make up some spots, I'd say, and a couple other guys maybe, when you're getting used to the wet right off the bat, maybe make a quick error, especially on heavy fuel.
Indeed. Going from dry to wet conditions can throw a lot of curveballs at drivers, especially on a track. Looks like you are right. Looks like they are on the intermediates right now, but it does look quite heavy.
Well, interesting start to the formation lap there.
Yeah, nobody really going anywhere. And people getting out of order, so that is not really allowed per the rule book. So Rawlings is going to have to fall back in behind Killer F1 there.
I'll send Ginger Horizon a message that he's done that the last 2 weeks, and realistic.
Yeah, folks at home, in BRL, you are not allowed to overtake on the formation lap for any reason whatsoever.
I'm going to hand it over to you for a sec, Mr. Williams, and I'll be right back.
All right. See Heatwave basically drifting through Sector 1. That's not really what you want to do to these tires. These intermediate tires generate enough heat on their own just by driving around, so you really don't want to be weaving back and forth too much. just to kind of preserve the tire itself, because as we've seen in other races and series, the tire tread depth, so not burning off the tread, is hugely important, as you see Joe just basically streaking away and really moving along at quite a good clip here.
All right, we're back.
And everybody has opted for the intermediate tire. We're going to keep it on position change for the start.
Yeah, I heard you say, talking about the tread life of the tire for sure, especially with the intermediates, you want more as opposed to less. That's going to disperse the rain as you drive through it, but also do want
really will.
pretty warmed up tires at the start, because I found especially when the inters are cold, a lot trickier to drive in the wet than it is when you have cold tires in the dry. So,
well, speaking of cold tires, speaking of cold tires, the third row of the grid is going to be ice cold at the start here, because they've just made contact and both got disqualified from the formation lap. So ARS Guido and Facetaste will both be starting with cold tires.
I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye on the back of the grid for you for this one, so you can catch the action up front, and hopefully we have a good 27 laps here at Suzuka.
Thank you, sir. So because the lighting gantry is kind of halfway on and off the track, we're going to stick right on board with Joe for the start, at least until that 4th or 5th light comes on, and then we'll jump off board, just so that way we can get an idea of exactly where the lights are. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And they're out, and we're away. Who's going to get the best jump off the grid in these conditions? These guys do have traction control and ABS. It looks like Joe is going to get the best run, but here comes Stenner, already past Rawlings, looking at Killer into turn 1. Killer runs wide. That's going to cost him the spot. Stenner up to P2, and now he sets his sight on the Haas in front of him in Joe. And already all over the diffuser of that Haas. So Stenner wasting no time, going from 4th to 2nd and hunting first. A lot of movement on that first lap and first couple of corners. Whiffy Winner picking up 4 spots already. Facetaste and Zampa both dropping 3. Guido only dropping 1 with his cold tires.
Yeah, I was on board with Whiffy for the start.
And here goes Stenner. He's looking up the inside. He was looking up the inside of the second Degna. You can think about that move in the wet, not so much in the dry. And that is going to be Facetaste.
Yeah.
He's got damage.
Yeah, he's off. Just unlucky.
So definitely losing out a lot on this first lap. Looking back up front, Joe's now got a bit of a gap on the car behind in Stenner after a little mistake in that little lunge. Really not a good place to pass, even in the wet. You can think about it, but you really have to commit to it and just send it off into the inside of that second corner. Got a yellow flag in second 2. Looks like Silkweaver has had some problems as well.
Yeah,
he has got some wing damage. He is off. That's a very odd place to have an off.
Yeah, Josh almost did the same thing watching him, actually, and Josh looks like he's struggling off the start here, the Alfa Romeo.
Is Josh supposed
really.
Is this guy supposed to be in here, or is he just some rando? Because again,
could be a rando, to be honest with you. I have no idea.
Hopefully he's supposed to be in here, but I don't really know. As Guido now goes wide off the final corner, that's going to lose him a spot to nobody.
Whiffy's made up another position.
Whiffy's up to P6. That is impressive.
That's the thing we're talking about. That's what we were saying, especially early laps. If you have the setup on that's right for the rain conditions, and you can get out there immediately and start plugging away, I mean, look at what he's done. He's just made up so much room in the first couple of laps here. That's huge for the rest of the race.
Track position at this place is key. If you can get up, I was stuck at the back of a 5-car train for the majority of the first 10 laps of the Tier 1 race. Couldn't go anywhere. You just, when somebody's close to your pace, it's just almost impossible to get around them here. So track position is huge, and if you can get around somebody, you usually will stay in front of them here.
Yeah,
obviously in the wet, that's a little bit,
in the wet,
a little bit different.
In the wet, it's even more, I'd say, it's even more difficult in the wet around here, because not only are you dealing with the dirty air, but there's no DRS. And into turn 1, that's the crucial thing that you can use in dry conditions. Rawlings has had a moment.
Oh, Rawlings, he's had a big moment there, and that's going to drop him all the way down to 7th, maybe even 8th.
The AlphaTauri of Whiffy up to P5. I'm just loving this. Team AlphaTauri tonight.
Whiffy is definitely adept in the wet. He's very calm, very patient, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. And this is exactly the kind of conditions I would expect him to excel in. Coming around, Stenner still hounding Joe. Stenner actually underfueled the car, it looks like, a little bit, which may bode well for him here, considering the conditions.
Heatwave just tried to get up tight behind Groggy, it through 130R, and has picked up a little bit of end plate damage as well. Don't think that's going to help him out for the rest of the stint.
He has indeed. He's actually going straight into the pits. Probably a smart move. Because around here, that's going to be crucial.
Rawlings and
looking here, Rawlings taking back the place that he lost to Zampa with that spin, or half spin. Probably just got on the power a little bit too hard as you see the car twitch out of turn 2 there.
Now my curiosity here is, can Whiffy make up more spots? Is he going to be able to keep the pace with the lead group? It looks like so far the answer to that's no. He's losing a little bit of time to Leclerc. And
well, you've also got to remember he started down in 11th, so he's made up a lot of spots. And he actually is pretty much holding station with Leclerc, or gaining on him a little bit. Leclerc up 4 spots himself, so good job from him as well to pick up spots off the start. But still, that start from Stenner, just off the line, just pretty much blew Rawlings off like he was sitting still. Almost got Killer just completely on the straightaway, and then Killer ran wide into the entry of the corner, and that was all she wrote. I mean, Stenner's up in the second and has held on to it ever since. Hasn't quite been able to close down the gap to Joe to really, make a move. That's honestly something that I've noticed about these cars in the wet, is because they're so aero dependent, you really can't get too close to them because there's not really a whole lot of mechanical grip. That's usually what allows you to get close to people is having mechanical grip versus aero grip, because once you get up behind them, the aero washes away and starts damaging the tires. So that might be hampering him a little bit, as Whiffy Winner has now started to drop off the back of Leclerc just a little bit, and Joe sets fast lap at a 141.2 out front. Having clean air and clean vision, more importantly, can be huge in the wet.
I am pretty impressed with the top 3 so far. They're holding suit with each other through lap 4, and that's good signs for us. That means we're in for some entertainment here. I know wet races obviously occasionally get a little bit spread out. Hopefully these 3 keep themselves all bunched up nicely. This is something to keep an eye on.
Indeed. This right here is what I like to call the ultimate driver's circuit in the ultimate driver's conditions.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, 100%. I think Suzuka on any day is a big challenge for drivers, and a lot of fun to drive in wet conditions, and in a race with guys that you're competing with toe to toe. It's got to be even more of an adrenaline pump, I'd say.
Oh, actually, we just hopped on board with ARS Guido, and he's got some wing damage on the right side of that racing point as Rawlings now comes screaming up on the back of him. He actually got in the dirt just a little bit there. Rawlings is probably going to have a look into spoon, if not down the next straightaway.
Yeah, surprisingly, the racing point's not really falling off the Whiffy so far. So,
yeah, surprisingly, with that wing damage. Let's see exactly what happens here. There have been rumors that you can actually go flat out through 130R in the wet. Looks like that was true right there. We didn't see him lift one bit.
Yeah, that's a little bit sketchy for me, especially if you're not running a full wet setup, I would say. But yeah,
well,
maybe I could be mistaken.
Getting very squirrely out of the final corner, but keeping his foot in it and keeping it straight. That's going to keep him a little bit of front of Rawlings at the moment, but this track, that's one of the reasons why this place scares people, to be honest, is that, and that's something you might not think that, people say that Suzuka scares them. I've known a couple people that have actually driven this circuit just for giggles while they were over in Japan doing something or other for their job, and they actually said, this place scares me. And the reason for it is, I mean, you see the guardrail, it's Nürburgring style. It's feet from the racetrack, and Stenner actually just set the fastest first sector of the whole race right there. Maybe he does have a little bit more in the tank.
Well, Austin Racing Point getting dicey for P6 here. Austin going to try to make a move into the hairpin, I think. He's got the inside line.
Rawlings,
let's see if he does it.
Yep, he's going to send it up the inside. Shorter line, got to keep it straight and get the power down, and he does. He's going to clear him off the exit. Nice, clean move from Rawlings trying to make up for that mistake earlier.
That's giving Whiffy some breathing space. He's going to need that. As you can see, he's fallen off the back of Leclerc now, and I don't think he's going to keep that same pace, but hopefully Rawlings gives him a good battle shortly here.
Well, I don't think it'll be a long battle, but either way, getting back to what I was saying is that people say that it scares them, and honestly, it should scare you. Coming up to 130R in any car should scare you, especially 180 miles an hour in the wet in a Formula One car. It can come unglued pretty much at a moment's notice. All it takes is one little twitch, and you're going to be facing the wrong way and having to call on your inner Kamui Kobayashi to keep it out of the fence.
Yeah, I think I would personally be quite scared in real life braking into turn 1. Just not because the wall's right there on exit, but just knowing that if you do go long and you end up in that gravel trap, there's no guarantee that, depending on how fast you're going as well, you might go straight through that gravel trap, and to have it be over at turn 1 would be not a great thing. So, but yeah, lucky for me, I don't think I'll be driving Suzuka anytime soon, at least not in real life. So for now, it's only an imagination.
First time penalty of the race. We're only on lap 6 here. First time penalty of the race goes to ARS Guido there in P7 in the Racing Point. That wing damage probably hampering him just a little bit on corner exit, which might be why he's picked that up. Anyway, Rawlings is all over the back of Whiffy as they come out of the hairpin on the run up to Spoon. Probably going to get him. He's on the overtake button. He's probably going to try and get him here on the entry to Spoon. On the outside for the corner, Whiffy's going to run him in and run him off the track, actually. They both go wide there, and that's going to allow Guido to get right up on the back of both of them, but Rawlings gets the place nonetheless. Since they both ran wide, that's fair game, in my opinion.
This just allowed Zampa back into the mix, too. He's coming up the field here in P8.
He really is. He's kind of just been quietly sitting back there.
Oh, he's into the wall. Oh, that's going to be a VSC. Yeah, yep. ARS Quidits.
Whiffy with a 5-second time penalty there for, and that's, virtual safety car. Whiffy with a 5-second time penalty for a severe collision there. Walk us through what happened, because we didn't really see it on camera.
They tried to go side by side through 130R, and the Racing Point was on the inside line, just got clipped barely. But as we know, as we were talking about, with the aero wash and it being wet conditions, he lost the car pretty much immediately.
Looks like he ended up in the outside fence there. How did he spin all the way around, or did it just snap back the other way?
He got touched when he went in, and it kind of closed the front end a tad, but as he tried to open it back up to go left around 130R, the car just went straight on.
Yeah, 130R is it's I like to call that corner playing chicken at 185 miles an hour.
Pretty much.
Now, I've gone in my 5 seasons of BRL, I should say 4 seasons, because I didn't partake last season, although I was in F2. In my 4 seasons of racing Tier 1 for BRL, I've gone through that corner side by side with somebody exactly 3 times, and come out the other side. And I was on the passing end of it all 3 times. 2 times I was on the outside with BRL Alderfer in Season 1, 2 laps in a row, unfortunately. Got by him, and then he immediately passed me back. And then just the other night with B-Dunk, went up the inside, decided to... he didn't defend it, and I decided to take the short way. And, we came out we all 3 came out the other side in one piece without any damage. But it is the ultimate commitment corner if you want to go side by side with somebody. You have to trust that person entirely.
Yeah, 100%. I would not personally recommend going through 130R side by side with anybody. It's definitely a spot to make a move if you can get there. Purely side by side, like all 4 wheels almost touching, I would say not recommended on my end. But hey, if you can get the move done, you get the move done. It takes
some supreme fearlessness, I would classify it as. You have to be absolutely fearless around that somebody eats them. It's still sketchy. You have to really this whole about to commit to it, but you have to know how to not overcommit to the corner. Case in point, if you overcommit to Degna, you're going to end up in that gravel trap, and probably in the wall as quick as you're going.
I'm just checking in on Joe here. He's got a nice gap to Stenner at the moment. I don't know how his tire wear is doing. His battery is great. He hasn't used to drop a bit, to be honest with you. It's right at the max amount right now, so he could easily pick up the pace down the straights here. Checking on Stenner, yeah, he's about 45 at the moment. He still is under fueling the car. He's still got some work to do. Killer, by
Yeah,
the
and I
way,
think
he's down to 25.
I think that's honestly that's biting him a little bit because Joe can turn it up to rich mix on the straightaway, not use the battery, and he doesn't care. Um, Stenner doesn't have that luxury, and that's kind of one of the things that I ran into myself was that I burned a lot of fuel doing that huge undercut. So for 2 laps, I was just hard on it and just flying away. And then the whole rest of the race, I was having to manage fuel, and ERS. Because in the dry, it doesn't really recuperate too much around here. In the wet, it'll regenerate a lot more, just because of the fact you're going slower, you're more time off throttle. Lifting and coasting is a lot bigger thing in the wet, especially through the S. You're going to gain a lot of battery back, but in the dry, it really doesn't like to regenerate around here, or anywhere for that matter.
Yeah, well, the good news for Joe is doesn't need to worry about that right now. He's sitting on a cool 100%, and yeah, he's actually holding the gap to Stenner, but now Killer's brought it in by about a second in the last lap or so. Let's see if we get something going on for P2 here.
Looks like Whiffy and Zampa are about to be going at it for P6 right now. Whiffy does have he does have that 5-second time penalty, which that may or may not get removed, depending. But he gets very sideways coming up to the hairpin there. That is not going to help him at all. But he gets it stopped. Doesn't run too deep. Keeps it pointed the right direction. But that's going to give Zampa a nice run behind him as well as the slipstream. Zampa getting a little sideways on his own there. Really pushing the car to try and get around Whiffy. That's honestly something that's probably the worst thing you can do in the wet is to try and hurry the car up. It will usually result in you going slower than if you were just patient with it. Looks like Whiffy's probably running a little bit less downforce because he is yarding Zampa down the straightaway. Pulled about roughly almost half a second between Spoon and the Casio Triangle. Probably going to see more of that down the front straightaway here. Yep, already it's pretty much balanced out, and then now it's starting to pull away. So
he's on the button as well.
Oh, he's on the button. Okay, that'll definitely help. Being on the overtake button will be quite crucial. I wonder
if the tread on his tires is starting to get a little bit low, because you can see in the corners he's struggling, but I'm not sure. It's tough to say because obviously he's slowed down a little bit since his flying start to the race here, but he's looking awfully cautious through the S's here. Just really losing most of his time.
Indeed. Looking back up here at Stenner, he's still holding that gap at about 2 seconds. He's clawed back about half a second on the lead of the race. But he really, I think underfueling the car was a bad choice. I don't ever recommend underfueling the car. Personally, I did it at Singapore. I did that at Singapore. At a street circuit, you can kind of get away with that, because there's a lot of places where you don't really need a whole lot of power. You just need to kind of preserve the tires, get through it, and then turn it back up, especially when it ends up sprinkling a little bit. And, we didn't even have to go on the wet tires, is how little it actually rained. And you can regenerate a lot of that fuel, which gives you a weight advantage and a pace advantage, usually, over the guys around you. But on an actual...
come up to the back of the Williams now in the battle.
He has. Tesla Leclerc has come alive here in the last few laps and closed up this gap to third place Killer F1, who is still actually not, he's still closing down a little bit on SSR Stenner in P2. So these three are actually coming together, looking to have a little bit of a dice up, but Joe's just out front and he's loving that. Let's look here at the fastest laps of the race for each driver. Currently, fastest lap of the race belongs to CRS Face Taste down in P10 with a 139.8. Have to be in the top 10 to get that bonus point. Of the top three, Joe has been the only man to get into 39s, and by quite a ways. Killer F1 with a 140.6. Tesla Leclerc with a 140.4. And SSR Stenner with a 140.9. So Tesla Leclerc seems to be the fastest of the three. Rawlings at a 140.3 behind them, but he is 7 seconds further back from Leclerc.
Leclerc's got a lot of battery to work with here, and Killer ahead. He's only at 32.
As
Stenner
is
at
Stenner.
32 as well. So
Yeah, so he's got a
Racing Point's gonna make maybe a move here. I would say the undercut may actually benefit you in this scenario because it's going to be harder to get by them. But you're coming up to the pit stop window. You're clearly a little bit quicker at the moment. Maybe it's time to start thinking about that. Maybe stretch
and
the
that's
inches
that's
out.
the thing, is that and unfortunately I didn't realize that this was going to be the case. But at Silverstone earlier this season, I actually pitted, and there he goes. Actually, as we were talking about it,
I think
hits
this
the pit
is a
lane.
really smart move.
This is a very smart move on his part, because now not only is he going quicker naturally, he's now going to have better tires for at least a lap, which is going to be a huge advantage around this place.
Yeah, let's see if Killer and Stenner react on this lap. I would imagine at least one of them does.
So we're judging the gap here as he comes out of the pit. He's going to just stay in front of Groggy, I think. He does. That's crucial. So he's got about 6 seconds up to Zampa and Whiffy, and then about 9 seconds up to Rawlings, and about another 8. So that's roughly about, I'd say, 23 seconds is roughly what the pit delta is here. Speaking of which, Zampa all of the back of Whiffy. Got that battery just absolutely burned. Whiffy is sitting on almost a perfect battery right now, so he is just not using that at all. Zampa on the opposite end, using everything to try and get by the AlphaTauri. And Tesla Leclerc already pulled back almost a second on the cars directly in front of him, just in the first half a lap. The undercut here can be huge. In the wet, that is probably just going to be magnified. I wouldn't be shocked to see him set purple Sector 2 and Sector 3 here on this lap. He's got almost 100% battery. He really needs to burn a lot of that right now, just to try and make up as much as he can right here.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's going to deploy it. Yeah, here he goes. He's on it. All the way up on the run to 130R. Now you have to be careful, though, going through there, because you're carrying so much speed. Yeah, he's going to turn it off. And he's planted.
Yeah.
That's good.
He is, and that's crucial. Stenner does go into the pits. He's already heading down the pit lane. So I don't think he's going to get jumped, but Killer just might.
Oh, it's going to be close.
It is going to be very close. I think Stenner's got him. Stenner's got him covered off pretty well, but he may still get Killer.
That was impressive in that there from Stenner then, because Leclerc's actually further behind than he was when he went in.
Maybe a little bit different pit stops there. Maybe a little bit playing into Stenner's hand on the pit stop time versus Leclerc. That can be a big decider as well. Chandler Seta actually lost out position to me on track in the pit stop by getting held up by Garagi or by Ginger Horizon in the Tier 1 race. As Leclerc now sets the fastest first sector of the race on his first full flying lap. His tires are fully up to temperature, and the guy in front of him still trying to get there, so not quite balanced out yet. I think he's actually about where he was on Stenner ahead, but I think Killer's going to be the big loser in this exchange.
Bear's pulling it back now. It's down to 1.6. It was 2.5 when it came out, so. And now Stenner's coming up to the back of Whiffy. And that's going to probably allow the Racing Point back into the mix here.
Stenner setting purple Sector 2 there on his outlap from the pit lane. Going to be wanting to
with the same.
Going to be wanting to dispatch of Whiffy very quickly here. If Whiffy doesn't dive into the pits, he decides to get out of the way. Probably a smart move on his part. Looking here at Killer, he is coming down the pit lane as Tesla Leclerc sets the fast lap of the race. Stenner's going to get him. Leclerc's going to get him. So that is
no surprises there.
That is crucial for Tesla Leclerc. Now the question is, Joe. How long does Joe stay out there on those tires?
Joe's probably going to come out with, I'd say, about a 4, maybe 3-second lead right now if he goes into the pits.
I don't know how close it's going to be, but it's going to be close, I think, on that.
He's still got his whole battery as well. I would imagine Joe's got to start thinking about using that. He's going to need to pick up the pace with pretty much the whole field on fresh tires apart from Redeemer. So, yeah, Joe's on the button now.
On the button coming up to the pit lane. 194 miles. Oh, gets a little squirrely there. Easy, sunshine,
that's what we're
easy.
talking about. Ooh, that's what we're talking about.
That's exactly what you don't want to do, is get sideways. He's coming into the pits here, so he's going to cover everybody off, say, yep, nope, my tires are still okay, but we're going to go in here.
He went into neutral, he broke so hard there. I'd say look for it to be between... Stenner might get him here, to be honest, Steve. Look for it to be between Stenner and Leclerc. It's going to be close, so he's coming back out now. Ooh, maybe he will get out ahead of Stenner.
I don't think he's going to be in any danger here, but it's going to be a little bit on the tight side. There he goes now. Yeah, he'll be fine coming down the front straightaway. Yeah, he's not going to be in danger at all.
Yeah, no, he's not. Not too bad.
So
2 seconds.
Maintain
about 2 seconds.
But remember, he's now on cold tires, and they're going to take about a half a lap to a lap to come up to temperature. So Stenner is going to have a little bit of an advantage here for just a minute, just for the heat in the tires. Although he's really not gaining much of anything, he's actually losing a little bit of time through the S's and Dunlop. So now the fight is going to be for third. Can Killer F1 with 1 lap fresher tires, can he claw back P3 from Tesla Leclerc? Not saying that everything else is set in stone here, folks. There's still always an opportunity for somebody to have a big off and a safety car to come out and stack this whole thing up and change everything, because then somebody will dive in, get fresh tires, and have just gobs of pace.
Oh, that would be enjoyable, wouldn't it?
It really would be. I think back at that Silverstone race, I think I was something like I pitted halfway during the race, pretty much just bang on halfway, maybe a lap before, and I came out of the pits and was immediately going 2 to 3 seconds faster than anybody else on the racetrack. So tire tread depth, in a wet race is huge pace-wise.
Rawlings has just gone purple in Sector 2. Rawlings is actually making a decent race out of what was not such a great start back to P5, and I mean, if these guys are going to continue to follow each other around for the next 11 laps, makes me wonder, could Rawlings, as he puts in the fastest lap of the race, could he potentially get himself back up maybe into a fight for P4 before we're all said and done here?
It is possible, but he's got a lot of work to do. We just got over 11 laps to go here, and he's about 7 seconds behind the car in front, and that's a big ask. Oh, Stenner has gone off. Stenner has gone off the racetrack, lost out to Tesla Leclerc and Killer. So pit stop null and void. He got him the old-fashioned way. Just wait for him to make a mistake.
Oh, Stenner's going to be kicking himself after that one. Had the whole thing set up perfectly, made it up to P2. No drama, and now he's going to have to fight back.
Well, you know what they say about places where there's no drama? There will soon be drama. Anyway,
true.
Tesla Leclerc now in P2 with Killer F1 just right around 1 second back of the racing point on 1 lap fresher tires. That can make all the difference around here in these conditions, is that 1 lap of grip. And that is the name of the game in rain racing, is patience, grip, and sometimes a little bit of straight line speed.
Yet no one seems to have a particular straight line speed advantage, apart from Wiki. We were on board with him earlier, but yeah, I'd say for the most part, have some idea of how to set the car up, especially for wet conditions. So maybe they're all thinking the same thing tonight.
It is possible, but that mistake from Stenner has given Joe a massive, seismic 6-second lead that he will be unlikely to relinquish. He can pretty much just cruise and not really take a whole lot of risks for pretty much the entire rest of the race at this point.
Yeah, Joe's just got to hold it down. He's comfy up there, 6 seconds gap, and no one really within sight, so he won't be feeling too much pressure. Just get 10 laps under your belt here and call it a day.
Yeah, for me, I'm the type, I just run the little mini map. If I can see you on the mini map, I don't like it.
Exactly. Right now, Joe won't even have anyone within sight of him, even if he's doing a little bit of look back. He's going around the hairpin now. These guys just coming up to it. So yeah, no dramas for Joe at the moment. He's comfortable where he is and still pulling out more time as we go along here.
Indeed, so he's just ever expanding that gap out front. Looks like Zampa and Redeemer are going at it. I don't think Redeemer has stopped yet.
Oh, Zampa's going for it. He's going to go up the outside of the hairpin.
He is.
It's a little bit gutsy.
Redeemer has not stopped yet. He's going to keep the position, maybe. Nope. Does not get the drive off the corner with Zampa there on the outside. So Zampa now up and into P6 as Redeemer, getting squirrely there on the run down to Spoon. Keeps it pointed right.
They both did there for a second.
Yeah, a lot of guys getting very squirrely there, which just kind of makes me think that maybe they're not running enough rear downforce on these cars to really just be able to hammer the throttle down and keep it down through a corner like that. And yes, while you are full throttle, it is still a corner, and it is still very, very tricky. Personally, that's kind of my philosophy: is a lot of rear wing, not a whole. We got Whiffy winner backwards off 130. He's still in the, but he's gonna have some wing damage from that. Probably gonna pull off to the side, and not sure what happened there. Probably just got sideways.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Whiffy.
That
on
is.
For such a good result.
He had a brilliant start to the race. Now got wing damage. Gonna have to. Oh, and he actually just hit the end of the pit wall.
Yeah, honestly, I've seen that happen before, so I'm not particularly surprised. But this gives everyone a moment to cool the tires down. I'm sure Joe's going to be happy because he gets to save a little bit more ERS than he already has, still up running at 84%. So I don't think he's in need of any of that anytime soon.
I don't know. That looks a little suspect to me. That looked looking a little sus over here.
What's Joe running on that car today? I want to know.
I was talking about Whiffy in the pit wall there. I was just like, that was a little sus. So stewards may want to have a look at that later on. Not saying he did anything intentional there, but just the way we saw that was a little... The angle made it look a little bit questionable. Just because he was already in dead last, he was already, damaged, already having to go back into the pits to fix the car.
Race compromised.
Yeah, race is pretty much barring anything. There was really no benefit to...
I have to say, I'm pretty impressed so far. We've only had 3 time penalties on the board. Everyone seems to be keeping it well within track limits, and in the wet, too. That's easier said than done. It
really is. A lot of guys really don't like these conditions. They say, there's a lot of people, actually, that I know that on here in this whole league. They say they don't like racing in the rain, and I kind of look at them like, what's wrong with you? This is fun. The car is sliding around. You're having to maintain control of it. And it's pitching and yawing as Stenner now picks up a time penalty there, which is going to put him in danger.
He wants to get back. Yeah, he wants to get back on these guys, but I think that spin just took the life out of his tires, and now he's fallen into the clutches of Rawlings. So maybe not all lost here.
Maybe. I think if Rawlings gets him, what he should probably do is, if he's got another set of intermediates available to him, just go ahead and dive in with a few laps left and then go try to set a fast lap of the race. Because he's only going to lose 1 spot to Zampa, probably be able to get that back, as Joe just set the fastest second sector of the race out there in the lead, expanding that lead now to 9.5 seconds. This man is absolutely on rails right now, and he is absolutely just gone. Joe with fast lap of the race at 138.1.
Wow. I think that's about 9/10 quicker than the previous, if I'm not mistaken, but that's pretty impressive from Joe. He's really making the tires work at this stage of the race, about 4 laps into them.
It's about half second quicker than Face Face managed. It's about half second up on what Face Face managed.
There we go.
But as far as anybody around him, Rawlings is the next closest at a 139.05, so almost a full second clear of the next car around him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about Rawlings' fastest lap. He's really made up a good amount of... and he's gotten by Zampa's into the pits. Is Zampa, which I guess no surprise there.
And
Zampa, sorry. Was it Zampa? No, Stenner. My apologies, Stenner.
well, no, Stenner's not in the pits. He's actually still on the racetrack. So, did he? So yeah, he did pit. Okay.
Someone just came into the pit.
Yeah, so that was Stenner. He did come into the pit.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of lost track of where he was for a minute there. So that's going to promote Rawlings back up to P5. Stenner is just now on the back of Zampa. And he will probably clear him pretty quickly here. Which that's going to give him
Leclerc's putting an awful lot of pressure on Leclerc at the moment. Its gap's only 7/10, and he's got a little bit more ERS. Actually, no, just about matching each other now, both on the button. But Killer's trying to make up some time here. Wants to get by Leclerc and maybe start to defend a little bit for the final closing laps.
Indeed. I'm seeing these guys do something. I've never really understood why they do that, because if you watch the Tier 1 race, you'll see all the Tier 1 guys. We use the ERS on the immediate exit of the corner. We don't wait until we are, you know, on the straightaway to use it and already in 6th, 7th, 8th gear. We're using that in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th at most, because that's where it's more effective. That electric energy deployment gives you a lot. The torque gives you a lot more benefit at low speed than it does at high speed, because it's immediate delivery. You don't have to wait on it. So like out of the hairpin, give it about I'd be giving it a half-second blip out of the hairpin just to get the car up and out of 3rd, 4th, 5th and get it into those higher gears quicker. That's where it seems to give you the most benefit, is in low speed conditions. Stenner already having dispatched Zampa as we continue to watch this fight for P2 here into clear air. I would not be shocked to see him claw back that fast lap of the race. Gap only about
taking
6.
A look at Stenner's time penalty here. It's 3 seconds, so he does have to make up 2 more on Zampa. I'm sure that won't be too much of a task because he's had good pace all race, but not clear of P6 yet.
Face takes around in Sector 1, no harm, no foul, nobody else around him. We're going to be looking at Stenner here as he comes through the 2nd sector. We're going to be watching his time split. But yeah, I don't imagine he'll have too much issue gapping Zampa. He was running quite a bit higher up the grid before his pit stop. These two just seem to get ever closer every time I look at them. Killer getting a bit better run out of the corner and getting a bit of a run down the front straightaway. Not going to be close enough for a move, I don't think. But he's just going to be hounding that racing point and waiting for him to make a move. Waiting for him to make a mistake so he can make a move, actually. So looking here, he's about 8/10 up on his previous best time, so gets a little bit squirrely out of that final corner. On the overtake button up to the line. Not quite going to get fast lap away from Joe. He's actually quite a ways from doing that. He's about 8/10 slower right now.
Joe's gap is mega at this point, 12.5. Turning the engine down, just cruise on home for 6 more. Nothing crazy. He's got this one in the bag, barring a mistake on his own end, because obviously no one around him on the track.
Yeah, nobody's matching his pace right now. Honestly, he is probably looking at getting moved up to Tier 2 next season with the performances he has put in. It's just like this. I mean, he's gapped the field massively. Not that we haven't seen people do that in you know, like Tier 1 and Tier 2 on occasion, but it's a pretty consistent thing with Joe that he's pretty well always towards the front of the field, always working on building a huge gap. And usually something happens to take it away from him, or he puts himself out of it. That's what usually happens. Killer's only about half-second back coming into the Casio triangle. That gap jumps out a little bit through the triangle, but he got a mega run off the corner there, picked up almost 2.5 tenths. I don't think he's going to be close enough. He's a little farther behind than he was last lap. I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move here. If I were Killer, I would try to save as much of that ERS as possible. Try to stay as much of that ERS up as possible. Give it a good blast down the back straightaway to get close as possible coming into the Casio triangle, or even make a move into the Casio triangle. Maybe put Leclerc off just a bit on the entry to the corner by being on his inside, compromise his entry, and then consequently compromise his exit onto the front straightaway, and then give it another good blast down the front straightaway after Leclerc's been compromised. And that's the way he's gonna make this pass work. Is he's going to have to get his nose in and compromise the car in front.
Joe's made a mistake with the gap there.
He has, but I think that's kind of going to be a wake-up call to him to, okay, back it off.
Well, it does get a little bit mesmerizing when you're sitting up, 12 seconds ahead of the field and just
It really
lapping
does.
in the rain. You're not really thinking too much about what's going on.
It's hypnotic almost.
That's why I'd say it's probably been a more fun race, I'd say, for Killer and Leclerc. I know Joe's going to take this one pretty handily. He'll be happy with that, but Killer and Leclerc are both going to be proud of themselves after this one. They've managed to keep everyone else at bay and just kind of tag along with each other throughout most of the Grand Prix here.
Indeed, Killer on that button down the front straightaway. I don't think he's going to be close enough because it looks like Leclerc is also on the button. Again, just using the ERS when you are already halfway down the straightaway in 8th gear, you're already at top speed almost. It's really not going to gain you much of anything. It's going to gain you a few kilometers per hour, but it gains you more under acceleration than it does at top speed. So I'm not really sure the methodology of using it is correct here for these guys. I think they need to go to school a little bit on that. Because how you deploy that ERS it can make a pretty decent difference in your lap time. It's not we're talking 3-4 tenths at most, but even that could take you from being a midfield driver to being at the front of your tier.
Absolutely. I'd like to point out, by the way, Rawlings.
I was just about to say
1.6 behind these guys. This is not over yet.
No, it is not. And Killer just made a bit of a mistake. He's dropped back to about a second. Rawlings. All these guys are around 20 to 40% on ERS, so they're not all looking that great right now. They've only got about 4 laps left, and if Killer gets up beside Leclerc through a corner, Rawlings is going to be there. It's not going to take anything for him to close that 1.5 seconds up. But look at this, right on the back of him coming into the Casio Triangle, just pushing him all the way. But Leclerc seems to get a better run through the triangle every lap, and that seems to be the undoing of Killer down the front straightaway, is he's just not close enough, and he's burned the entire battery. They both burned the entire battery. They've all three burned their entire battery here.
Yeah, they're down to single digits. Oh man, if I was Rawlings, I would just be thinking about saving it for I would have saved it down that straight and this lap as well, maybe even lap 26, because these guys are so low in front of you. I know you can't see that when you're driving, but just having the wherewithal to know that it could be make or break on the last lap, having that much battery left.
It really could, and it was for me. I made a last lap lunge.
Face is out.
Tired. That's at 130R. We're going to hop to Redeemer for just a second here as he comes up through. Hopefully Face's car will stay there so we can see where he is. Looks like he's off to the left-hand side of the track. And he is, so he just got loose, came undone, and planted it in the fence.
And too late for a safety car, so that's a benefit for Joe there.
It is indeed. Keeps that nice, comfy 10-second gap as Heatwave picks up another time penalty there in 9th.
Rawlings is within 1 second now. He is in the battle.
He
officially.
He is, but he needs on closing the gap. Not a look at his honest, sends it in. That's even close to a fight for second here with 2 laps. These two have burned almost everything. Rawlings is sitting a little bit better. I think Rawlings was hoping that Killer would maybe be able to hang off on the outside a little bit longer there and kind of slow up Leclerc in front of him. As now Killer is now
closer to Killer than Killer is to Leclerc.
He is. I think Rawlings might be looking. He might want to look for a move down that back straightaway into 130R.
I think this
or he might
for it now. Ooh,
not quite.
Thought about it,
but you can't be half-hearted right now. This is the penultimate lap of the race. You cannot chicken out of a move right now. If you're going to send it, you need to send it. But at the same time, you do have to count on that guy realizing that, okay, he's really doing this. It's either I back out of this or we're going to crash. And that's kind of what you have to do at this point in time. Don't think he's going to have a move. Looks like he's pretty much holding station. down the back straightaway. I think he's running a little bit more downforce than these two cars in front of him, which is not going to help him in overtaking them in these conditions. Yeah, it makes the car faster overall, but passing people happens on straightaways, not in corners.
Well, Joe starts the final lap now, and so do these three. Looking like they're all pretty low on the button here.
They are. Killer is right on the back, though, of the Racing Point. Runs a little bit wider on the entry, going to cut it back and maybe get a bit of a better exit. It's kind of what he does, but now he's lost a little bit of time overall. I don't think we're going to see a major change from here to the start-finish line unless something happens, unless somebody makes a mistake.
Joe's trying to beat his fastest lap at the moment. Oh, and he picks up a time penalty for good measure. He ran a little bit wide there. It's not going to cost him anything, but yeah, there we go. On lap 27, Joe picks it up.
Yeah, if I was Joe, I would just kind of back it off and be like, okay, there's no reason to be pushing like this. He's got 10 seconds on the three cars behind him who are just crawling all over each other here. This is going to be very interesting coming down to the line. Who has saved the most fuel? Who has saved the most ERS for this last lap gasp to the line here? Coming out of Spoon onto the back straightaway up towards 130R. Everybody giving everything they've got. Killer on the button, as is Leclerc in front of him. Looks like Killer's got a run. He may have a run into 130R and the final braking zone here. He's only 3/10, 2/10. Is he going to send it up the inside? No, he is not. I think that is his that's it. That's the move gone. Joe's going to win the race. We're going to focus on this three-way fight for second. It's done. Tesla Leclerc is going to hold on to P6, P2, picking up 6 spots. So a brilliant race from Tesla Leclerc to come home second. Killer F1 almost getting it back at the end there, and Rawlings just never really had an opening. Just couldn't quite get back there in time.
Yeah, I would have said Rawlings for P2 if he had not had any issues to start. His Stenner has gone around.
He's gone around the final corner. That's going to cost him a spot to Zampa. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, props to Leclerc, Killer, and Rawlings. They drove great races today, honestly. It was pretty impressive to see the three of them just scrap it out, especially in the final stages. Very much proper entertainment, I would say, and not a great one for Stenner there. Obviously, dropping from P2 to 6 on that second stint. Not
indeed,
what you want.
But what a start that man made. Just absolutely blitzed everybody except Joe off the line. And just never, if he didn't look back for quite a few laps on that. Eventually it did come undone for him with a mistake after the pit stop, and then from there it just kind of slid further and further down the order.
Grogger should be coming up to the line. There he is.
Grogger
as well.
So now we're just waiting on Heatwave, who is coming off the final corner now. Only 9 finishers here at Suzuka, so 5, I believe, DNS. Quite a high attrition rate. We're going to get these guys in here to do some interviews really quick. We're going to do something a little unorthodox. Tesla Leclerc getting driver of the day. I think I'd have to agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I would agree so. Same.
So we will get these guys in here in just a minute to do those interviews. We're going to do actually all 4 of them because, I mean, let's face it. Rawlings deserves to be in there. Tesla Leclerc deserves to be in there. Killer deserves to be in there. And obviously Joe winning the race. So I would say let's just do all 4 of them and put paid to that, and we'll just make it nice, short, and sweet with all of them. Joe is going to be a pretty short interview, I think. There's nothing really too much to say about that. Dominating win from the Haas driver here at Suzuka, one of the most coveted trophies on the calendar. And looks like a day for the independents. No big teams on the podium. Haas, Racing Point, and Williams all on the podium today. As we wait for it to figure out what it's doing. Come on, F1 2020.
Yeah, I lost my audio from the game, interestingly enough. Back in the lobby now.
All right, so we do have Joe and Tesla Clerk in here. We are also going to get Killer F1 and Rawlings in here. Alrighty, so we're going to start from the top and move on down. Joe, our race winner tonight, pretty much a straightforward victory for you. Lights to flag, and I believe also got the fastest lap. Just pretty much nobody held a candle to you all night, buddy.
Oh yeah, I felt good going into the race. I didn't really practice wet, but I felt pretty decent in quali, and then I thought it was gonna be full wet, so I was preparing for that. But the inter was better, I guess, for the race. But I had fun. Yeah.
Indeed. You can prepare all you want, but honestly, when it comes down to it, wet driving is mostly about instinct, and you definitely have that. So congratulations on being able to exhibit that skill tonight. At one point, you had a 12.5 second lead. Saw a little bit of a mistake there at some point. Lost about 3 or 4 seconds, but still over 10 seconds at the line. Just a dominating victory. Congratulations once again to Joe F1. Burraps, moving on to our second place finisher and driver of the day, Tesla Clerk.
Mr. Leclerc, what a race from you today. You made the strategy work, obviously, to your advantage. How was it out there for you, and what are your thoughts on picking up P2 tonight?
I don't really know where to begin. Like, as Joe said, I was preparing for full wet, so it said heavy rain. I was like, great. But I don't know what it is I hate on this game. Good.
You lost there, especially under that kind of pressure, any stage of that.
Have any issues with wheel spinner either, because I seem to get a really good exit off the final corner, which managed to keep me ahead of Killer. I do just want to give him a shout out for not letting you have, but thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, we did tonight. Driver of the day voted by both me and Mr. Willie. Well done to you, Mr. Leclerc.
Thank you very much.
All right, fellas. Well, that looks like it's going to be it. We're not able to actually get all 4 of the top 4 in here because, I mean, that fight for second, third, and fourth was just absolutely bombastically good in those closing stages. I think if Rawlings had managed his resources a little bit better and maybe not made that mistake earlier in the race, he probably might have had P2 either way. But unfortunately, things just didn't quite go his way tonight. That is going to be everything from Japan here for BRL Tier 3. Once again, this has been FerrariNet94, a.k.a. BRL Williams, and ABR Burraps 19. We'll see you in 1 week's time for the USA Grand Prix from COTA.